I'm here with Chuck Turnitsa, Dr. Chuck Turnitsa. A little bit about the research that you do.
Okay, so recently I've been doing a lot of work in both system simulation, looking at simulation for doing trade space analysis of engineering systems, and looking for the trade-off between different parameters and relationships between parameters for systems before they're built, when they're still notional or capable. So it's a perfect spot for modeling. The simulation work that we do there is not so much dynamic simulation, it's Monte Carlo simulation. Okay, so that's one area I've been working recently. But I've been continuing to do my own research with students in agent-based modeling for modeling communication models, and communicating about beliefs and changing beliefs between people through communication.
That's awesome. So, if you were to explain that to your little one, yes, to a 10-year-old, how do you explain what you do to a 10-year-old?
Goodness. Okay. So when my daughter was younger, actually, I had perfect opportunity for this. You know, she asked me, what is it you do? So, I talked to her about using computers to understand the relationships between different parts of our world. Okay, whatever that happens to be, whether it's traffic or people, behaviors, right? So I talked to her about differences between how people treat each other, right, and differences in cars, how cars move, and how the economy works, and how prices are set, how much does something cost, and all that. You can understand those relationships and use computers to understand that. In order to do that, you have to have a model, right, which is a mathematical expression of those relationships. Once you have that, right, it's something that a computer can use and do a simulation of. It can simulate how that model operates over time and give you maybe some answers about how it might work in the world. And of course, the better the model is, the more accurate you're going to be. So that's a lot of it as well.
What do you think are the barriers today for why we don't know much about modeling and simulation? What keeps being almost like a niche type of activity?
I don't think so much that it's a niche activity. I think the problem is almost every discipline uses modeling and simulation, but they all refer to it in different ways. Okay, so I've been fortunate enough to work with people in natural sciences, biology, chemistry, and so on. They think of it as computational science. It's still taking a model, right, and representing that model in something you can do in a computer, right? So it has to be logically expressed, mathematically expressed, and then operating over time to come up with answers about your theory, to validate a theory, to maybe look at possible solutions. Engineering uses it, right? They do trade space analysis, size, weight, and power trade space, where they're looking at, okay, if I make the engine a little lighter, a little heavier. They've been doing that for years. Pencil and paper, slide rules, going back as long as engineering has been around. That's modeling and simulation, right? But they don't call it by that name. So
let's say that you like art. How do you bring modeling and simulation to people that care about art and that may not care that much about mathematics?
Okay, so you can use other types of metrics that people might be familiar with in order to show them mathematical relationships, to get them maybe less scared of the mathematical relationships, or to understand the nature of how they work together. Some examples might be music, the difference between different notes, different chords, right, different keys. How there's a mathematical relationship there. It's beautiful, right? It's a beautiful thing to look at, but it all comes down to math, right? And then from there you can go into the physics of how their individual instrument works, producing different sorts of wavelengths of sound and so on. So that's one way you could do it, through music. You could use these different kinds of things from the natural world that they might be familiar with.
You're one of the few grads on the modeling and simulation who do have a PhD in modeling and simulation. You know the state of the art today. Where do you see modeling and simulation? What do you think? What do we need to have in modeling and simulation to take it to the next level?
Oh, goodness. Okay. So the current my own daughter, right, who's graduating high school now, going into college. So people her age group, that demographic, they expect there to be computer representations and computer answers for everything, right? So if you will, a digital second reality mimicking our first reality for everything, right? How does the economy work? Why don't they know with computers when we raise the price of popcorn that fewer people are going to buy popcorn? Okay, well, somewhere there's got to be a model for that, right? A model for that. So I think that the generation is growing up expecting there to be all this computational representation of these real-world relationships. The big topics lately has been looking at big data, right? What sort of solutions or questions are hidden inside of massive amounts of data about the real world? I think computers can kind of elicit that if you have them just do the investigation and look for relationships that may exist that maybe you didn't think to ask for. and then they may know how to build, right? Computers that are smart enough to build code can build ways to bring those sorts of relationships to either a visualized experience that you can see, or maybe some reports on it, or whatever the feedback is, it's going to give you as the human user. The computer can maybe do that in an automated fashion. I think that's where we're going. We're not there yet, obviously.
Fantastic.
But that's where I hope.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.